morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory in the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. I'm your chair this morning, Linda McFadden, and to my far left is Ron Merritt, and to my left is Carrie Linklater. Our assessor this morning is Brittany Santucci, and Michelle Penn is our secretary. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to these matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I'll confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decision. You'll receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. Swear everyone in, please.
Please take your phone in for ease and future. Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Please state your full name.
Sid Story.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right. The first item is
Just a moment, I can't put my hands in my
Don't write on it.
I won't, as a matter of fact, if I could have 1 minute, I'll just,
certainly, I'll give you a minute.
of all these files, the last one I looked at today was the assessor's brief, and now I can't see it because I jumped ahead. It's life.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
All set? All right. So the first item on our docket is 1100 Templeton. I've just valued this morning, and if you'd like to go ahead.
Thank you. This is file number 19-4057. Roll number 05009, 143300, address is 1100 Templeton Avenue. This is a car-related service garage. It was built in 2018, so recently. And we have a leasable area of 48,944 square feet. If you turn to page 2, I have an aerial shot of the property. So it's just located off McPhillips to the west. The aerial photos I had were done at the beginning of 2018, so I don't unfortunately have the completed aerial shot, but I do have an exterior photo of what it looks like completed at the bottom. I didn't inspect the property and add it to the roll, but my coworker did, and unfortunately there was no photos taken at the time of the inspection. If you turn to page 3, there's no request for information on this one just because it was vacant land for 2017, so nothing was sent out. We do have a subject sale history, so in 2017 it sold for land at $4,500,000, which works out to, divided by the land area, $10.88 a square foot. That was, from what I could tell, fee simple, arm's length, vacant land sale. And that was sold in August, and I think the permits, from what I could tell, to build the building were issued in November and December of that year. If you turn to page 4, I have the vehicle service garage income workup. We have 3 premises here, and the blended rate is $14.42 per square foot. We have the 4% vacancy laws, a 2% expense, which we're doing this year, and then the $4.50 for shortfall, and an overall capitalization rate of 6.4%, to give us an estimated value of $10,241,000. If you turn to my page 5, I have my rent comparables. I'd just like to point out, I'll be removing my comparable one. It was pointed out that although it may not have looked like common ownership, that one had common ownership. Comparable 13 also had common ownership, and comparables 21 and 22 also did. And then I also will be removing comparable 24 until I can get a bit more clarification on the leasable area that's applied to that lease. So I revised mine. Nothing new was added, but I just revised the average, and it actually came up to $13.95, and the median came up to $12.50. So these are various, and now I have the 33 comparables. Various car-related comparables here. Some of the newer, more franchise popular, properties have higher net per square foot. And if you turn to page 6, I just have the income value summary. Page 7 is the model drive capitalization rates. 8 is Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. And then on page 9, I just have the permit that for the building that was added. We have the gross floor area of 48,943.5 square feet and declared construction value of $7,800,000. These are from, it was December 2017. On page 10 is just the application, which was the November 17th date, 2017, the value of construction and the address. Page 11 is just the site plan, where the building is going on the site. And page 12 is floor plan. Page 13 is my 2020 Board of Vision addenda. If you turn to page 15, we just have the fresh look, the 2-year assessment cycle. 16 is additional cap rate evidence. 17 is the non-recoverables, just we've gone out to the 2%, and then 18 is the IAAO standards we follow. So my recommendation today would be to maintain, I don't know why it says, I don't know if yours says increase, but mine does, to maintain the 2020 assessed value of $10,241,000. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, I do, thank you. Is this all model driven?
This is all model driven.
Okay. And I'll cut to the quick. You supplied 38 comps. Did you prepare this list of comps?
I've gone through most of them now.
Did you prepare them though?
But put them in a chart and kind of reorganized them.
Who developed this comparable list? Yourself or somebody else?
One of the assessors would have put it together, and then
Okay.
we're free to take what we want out of it and whatnot and review it.
What does common ownership, that's something new, and I've been doing this a long time. What's common ownership
Just that
mean?
when we did a company search, we found that even though the mailer said that it was a net lease with not fully owner occupied, we did find that, for example, comparable one,
Yeah,
Goodyear owns the property, there's a fountain tire in there. We found that one of the properties owns 50% of the other, or one of the companies, so that's why I removed it, because we
So
didn't
is
know if
that,
it was.
is that suggesting that 1275 is not reflective of the market for this type of building?
Well, from what I can tell, I just determined that there was common ownership, so I'm not sure, but I just removed as a comparable, because I
Okay.
couldn't.
Okay. You have 38 comps here before your adjustments,
Mhm.
and 18 of them are $12 a square foot or less. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. And then you mentioned something about you needed some, you weren't sure about one, and it's
Yes.
the largest of the group.
Comparable 24.
Comparable 24, and that is a premise of
24,000.
24,000 square feet,
255.
and the reported market rent somewhere is 1946, correct?
Yes, that's what they report on the income expense questionnaire, but it was brought up that there is more space in that building, and I had recently phoned the person who filled out it, and they haven't gotten back to me yet with kind of the
Okay.
least details.
You're aware that that's a MPI
Yes.
claim center?
Yes.
You drive your car in there,
Mhm.
and it's 44,000 square feet, and it's single tenant.
Yes.
And this has been dealt with in all of the hearings we've dealt on auto dealerships this year.
Mhm.
And your colleague had suggested that there was an error and it would be corrected, but it hasn't been corrected.
Well, I tried phoning them, they haven't gotten back to me. This is what they state on the lease, and I know it was dealt with in appeal, and it was more broken down when it was under appeal, so they applied a $17 rate to the main floor and a lower rate to the basement, but I still want to, I'm going to remove it today.
The city applied $16.25 to the finished space and $9.95 to
I'm just
the...
stating what the appellant had stated,
Oh,
who
okay.
was in contact with the owner, so
So
I'm not
that,
sure.
that
I
should,
removed it.
that should
just-
definitely come out.
Well, until, I said it was gonna, I'm not using it today, until I
Yeah.
can figure out
Okay.
what's going on with it.
Okay, and let's talk about another, there's only 3 large ones in this whole pack, 4 large ones in the whole package.
Yeah, well,
The other one is comp number 31 at 165 Innsbruck.
yes.
Do you know anything about that property?
I have not been in it, I don't know. Is
No?
there anything?
If I suggested it has an 11-to-1 land-to-building ratio, would that surprise you?
No, I would say a lot of the properties down that area would have larger, properties smaller.
But that's extraordinary, 11-to-1 is extraordinary.
I guess depending on if they need the land, I'm not sure.
Okay. And that lease is built on a complete turnkey, including the hoists, and are you aware of that, the $28?
I'm only aware of what they put in the income and expense questionnaire for their rent.
And you're aware that Innsbruck is out Route 90?
Yes.
Okay. When you see a comp like this at $28 a square foot, out in the barren field in Route 90, does one wonder, do you do any further investigation to see if that $28.79 makes any sense at all?
I looked at the income and expense questionnaire to confirm that that was correct, and that's what it stated. So
Okay.
it is on the high end.
But based
I will
on your
admit it is-
experience, it
based
seems
on my
seems
experience-
outrageous for a vehicle, particularly for an
It is.
auto body shop.
Yeah, so most, I would say, like, I think the other highest, well, we do have one at 24, but there's a few, obviously, at higher rates, just not the
Yeah, you-
majority of my
Well,
comparables.
but 24 you're taking out anyway, just said.
There's
You got
comparable
another one in
35.
1870 King Edward Street, do you know anything about that?
1870 King Edward?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, it's your comp number, sorry, yes.
Comp 33 on here.
Yeah. Okay. That's 3.2 acres in a very beat-up building, also on,
Which probably reflects the $8.50.
yeah. Okay. You wouldn't know how many of these are you know a collision center is an auto body shop, correct?
Yes.
Do you know how many of these might be auto body shops versus just typical vehicle service garages?
1 second. Comparable 5, I have listed as an auto body. Comparable 7.
That's Boyd Auto Body.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's an auto glass and collision, correct?
comparable 36.
So okay, we're okay then. So then comparable 5 is $10.71 a square foot, correct? And that's a legitimate auto body shop,
Yes.
okay? And comp 7 is $13.75, also a legitimate auto body shop,
Yes.
okay? And did you say 36?
And 36, I think, was also an auto body shop.
Okay, 36 is a contentious one as well. 36 came up in the last cycle, and it showed as being a Boyd Auto Body, just said glass department. It's out by Unicity.
Mhm.
But the questionnaire was read incorrectly by the department. The actual rent on that was $841 because it's a gross lease. The $13 is gross. Are you aware of that situation?
No.
Okay. But you'll confirm that's Boyd Auto Glass. And
Yes.
it's also was closed through most of this lease period. It was empty. Okay? All right. I won't bother you anymore on comparables. So you could, in theory, you maybe could have taken a little, or it's not you, but whoever did this could have maybe taken a little smaller sample, but a little more reflective of what auto bodies are, because this is just everything.
Mhm.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I could separate them out, but I can also speak to which ones are auto bodies in the chart.
Yeah. Okay. And this average, is this a weighted average or just a straight average?
Just a straight average.
Okay, which isn't too meaningful, but the median is.
Mhm.
Okay, so including all of these, including the 6 that we're going to take out because they're common owners or whatever that was,
Mhm.
and because they're Cal Tire, with extra land, and because they're like, I don't even know how leases work in MPI calls and MPI claim centers, but for sure I think that shouldn't be considered. But, okay, sorry, I'm talking to myself here. Then we just go to just a general question before we go, the cap rate issue. Is it fair comment to say that auto dealerships and auto service garages are another classification of retail? Like, what do you consider them? Are they retail? Are they industrial? Are they commercial? What are they?
I guess they're selling a product, so
So it's retail?
that would be.
And where do you in your page 7, where would you peg this 6.4%?
Unfortunately, we don't have a separate property type for the CMBSRs.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, I just know that it would fall between a range of 5.55 and
So
probably
it's
the
just a
highest.
gut feel, it's new construction, right?
Mm-hmm. This one would probably,
Well,
brand new
okay,
building.
and let's just flip a couple of pages over to, page 16. And page 16 is, you indicated it's capitalization rates that are being provided to just give the property owner some direction as to how the cap rates were derived, is that correct?
yes, just additional evidence for cap
Okay.
rates.
And if we take your position that you tended to agree, I think, that they're probably best suited as retail. Is retail in fairly close proximity to retail being office, so they're retail. And that's 1271 Jefferson. That's a fairly large property. It's a neighborhood shopping center, and that cap rate's at 7.4%, right?
Yes.
And you're aware that, or are you aware, is there access to this dealership from Templeton?
Having not been here, it looks like on my aerial shot on page 2 that there is a road going in, and from what I could tell on the plan on page 11, it looks like there's a road coming in off Templeton, just to the middle of the property facing the north.
And you see a turnaround, a dead end on Templeton at the end of the street?
It looks like Templeton goes through to the west. I'm not sure how far. I don't normally drive around there, but.
Okay. And you're aware that this is a collision center built by the Gauthier Group because they have 4 dealerships in close proximity.
Yes.
And they don't feed on the general public, and they have 0 visibility from McPhillips, is that correct?
I think you can see it pretty well from McPhillips because the apartments are kind of situated to the side. I've seen this building driving, but
And
I don't
that's-
know if the public, I've never gone there, so I'm not sure. I would assume the public.
And do your records indicate it's a private road to access it that is owned by the Gauthier Group? It's not Templeton, there's no access to the collision center from Templeton, that was a development condition.
Okay, so they removed the access that they had there?
There's
at
a
the
road in
north?
there, and it's like, almost like emergency, but it's a road in, but there's a big gate.
Okay,
And it says on the gate, no entrance, no access from.
so you have to
You
go
have
to
to
the
go,
road
you have to
to
go
Walmart?
around onto McPhillips and come back the private road, and that's very important, private road, because this particular building is at the whim of the Gauthier Group. If they decide not to let you have access, you wouldn't have much of a building. But you have to come across the Walmart parking lot to get to this.
Okay,
And that makes a good point. You're aware that one side, which would be the east side, is single-family residential houses, a border on the subject,
yes, to the east.
okay? And to the west, they are, I'm sorry, I've got that wrong. To the east is Lady Joyce, is the apartment that Mr. Gauthier built in memory of his wife. And on the other side, which would be the west side, of the multi-tenant, or the single-tenant property. So it's fit between, it's a collision center fit between a Walmart, Lady Joyce, a very nice apartment building, and residential housing, right? Access from which is by way of a private road, right? So one begs the question, who would buy this property other than Mr. Gauthier? Is there a market for a property like this at all?
Well, I'm assuming if a Walmart's next door, is there not a road that would not be owned? Or do they split the road? I'm just a little
No,
confused.
the road is owned by Mr. Gauthier down right to the edge. That's the access into Lady Joyce and into the dealership is off McPhillips down the private road.
Okay.
And then the other question, of course, is they don't really cater. I don't think you can see it from McPhillips. I'm almost sure you can't. I know you can't see it from McPhillips if you're past the Lady Joyce because it's right in front of it. But there is there's no attempt to deal with the public. It's all fed from the 4 dealerships. And the reason that they build the collision center separate, not just them, Birchwood, Dan Murray, everybody, is because they deem that a collision center reduces value of their building because it's a dirty use. And now you're looking at buying a brand new Subaru and you go walking across and all of a sudden there's a brand new Subaru pancaked in your auto body shop and all of a sudden you'll buy it. So it's a very limited market as to who's going to use this building. Would you agree with that?
I've been in some nice collision centers that are new. I wouldn't say they're awful. And there is some located closer to dealerships.
Yes. Well, this is close to a dealership.
Yeah.
This is right, what happened, just so you know, is they lobbed 3 acres off of the 2400, the dealership, to allow him to build the Lady Joyce.
Okay.
And that was reassessed and all that stuff. So it's there because of the proximity to his other dealerships and because he owns that plant. It was lobbed off the. And then one other quick point, I think it was. Oh, yes, interior. You indicated that you didn't have any interior shots. I have some, I'll present them. But there were no interior shots?
The person who added it, I couldn't find any interior photos, but I've been in.
Because I think one of your colleagues was there. I believe I met him there.
I think there was like something, there was notes I read, I just, I don't know why
That
there
would be
was.
the answer then. In the notes you read, I myself was surprised the quality or lack of quality of finish in the interior. Do you have any indication in your notes that this is sparsely finished?
Not from my notes, it's just that they had dealt with also info from Jingoche, but nothing to say that the
Okay.
building wasn't.
It's a beautiful building, but you go inside and you can see it's just built to do what it does. It's very, so you have no degree, you didn't assign any degree of finish to it when you were establishing this cap rate?
I did not, it would have been all the person who added it for the
Okay.
new construction.
Okay. And I shan't bother you anymore, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Maron?
Yes. Mr. Antucci, I just want to talk about the land sale that happened in 17. It was like 4.5 million. And that consisted of probably the square footage for the land that's for the subject. Or, which I calculated was about 9.5 acres, something like that.
I didn't
You know,
calculate.
roughly.
Okay.
So, Mr. Story brought up an interesting subject. When they bought this land, it was so big, and the Lady Joy was built, I think Mr. Story mentioned that they took off about 3 acres.
Correct.
So this is sitting on, so the whole package at the 4.5 consisted of
There's other.
a lot more.
Absolutely. There's still developable land up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was initially 3 acres.
Would that would be to the west then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, to the west.
Like behind the collision center? Like
Yes, behind, yes.
to the west?
Yeah.
The reason why I asked that is because in looking at the numbers in regards to, if you look at the permits, if you look at the land sale, it comes to like 12.3 million. So, you know, and we're looking at 10.2.
Correct. Right.
So,
I can answer that if you like, but it's not my turn.
it doesn't really, you know, add up, so I'm just
Yes.
wondering, you know,
From my understanding, the lot that's sold on my aerial photo on page 2 is what sold for the 4.5. There was nothing, it wasn't replotted or anything.
okay, but,
I was just wondering, like,
Okay.
they could, what's currently there, I guess they could build in the rear of it, but they do,
yeah, but they built the Lady Joy in front of the, well, to the east of it,
which would have been a separate sale.
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
not this sale is just for this property.
It is?
Yes, from my understanding, that's, because normally the sale wouldn't show up on the replot, it would show up if there was a replot done. So when I looked at it, it was for the 413,000 square feet. Because we use it as a comparable for our $10.88 per square
So
foot.
normally what happens in the permit, they underestimate the value, you know, because it costs more money, but it's respectable, so.
Yeah.
I think that's all the questions that I have. Other than, normally the cap rate is associated with risk. So I'm just wondering why the cap rate, because it's a new building, et cetera, why the cap rate wouldn't be lower.
I'm not sure, it might have to do with the size of the building, the area, there's other factors that go into what the cap rate is, so.
Okay, I thank you.
Thank you.
Karen?
Yeah, just one quick question about the condition. You said this was inspected by one of your colleagues?
Previous, yes.
Yeah, do you know when?
It would have been in 2018.
So the building would have been completed at that point?
Yes.
Okay. So do you have any field notes on that inspection?
They're not in great detail, unfortunately. They just put that it was a collision center. They spoke to Jingoche, some notes about just confirming the information, but nothing elaborate, unfortunately.
Okay, so nothing about the inside finishings, et cetera?
No, and I couldn't find photos. Like, I've been in a few collision centers, and they do vary, because I've been in some that are quite elaborate and
Yes.
some that are more basic. So for me, I I didn't have time to go and inspect it, and I couldn't see any pictures online, so I think Mr. Story says he has pictures, and that will probably be helpful to kind of determine what the interior looks like.
All right, thank you. That's all my questions.
And I don't have any further questions. Mr. Story, would you like to proceed?
Yes, thank you. You do the front cover of our brief, that's a photograph of the facility, looking from the Lady Joyce parking lot, looking west. The assessment is $10,241,000. We are on, and Mr. Mayor brought up a good point, we are on the income approach, and that's why to meet the equity argument, we use the income approach. However, in other jurisdictions, car dealerships and auto body shops are done on a cost basis, and it may be something to think about in this jurisdiction at some point. Our position is we have two issues. One is cap rate, and the other is market rent. And I'll go to page 3 of our brief. In market rent, you'll see that the assessor went to a great deal of difficulty gathering together these vehicle service garages that show a $12 change median, but still use the 1442, which is a model-driven number. And I don't know, when you do the model, I can name about 5 existing collision centers that are comparable in terms of their own by and fed by a dealership. I don't know any of them at 1442 a square foot, so one question is why the 1250 wouldn't have been used if that was, however, there's adjustments being made, and now the 1250 is a revised median, that should be used if anything. The market rent, I think everybody here has had some experience with auto dealers. I've been doing the auto dealers, Delary, Gauthier, used to be McNaught, that group since 2005. And as of 2011, the boards and the different owners have been appealing auto dealerships with trying to determine what a market rent would be, because there's nobody who wants to own the dealership. There's too much risk as a developer and rent it. So they're all owned pretty much by families or by non-arm's length leases. And what we did is basically the automobile dealership in $11.50 a square foot if they're larger, and pardon me, $11.50 if they're large, $12.50 a square foot if they're smaller. I think that's the only thing one should consider using. We've had some decisions in the last few days that support our $11.50 and 7.75% for auto dealerships, and I think that although they're a bit different, it's an interesting situation. A body shop, an auto dealer can be a body shop, but a body shop can't be an auto dealer. So what that tells us is that the cap rate for an auto body shop historically has been higher than the dealerships, except this year it's lower than the dealerships at 6.4. I think because of the nature of the business, because these buildings are totally dependent upon being fed by their neighbor properties. I think that should speak a bit to cap rate. 7.4, you see I used in the last handout that the city gave us, page 15 of the brief, they show that 7.44% for a shopping center just in the Maples, just behind this subject. I think that's not inappropriate. I'll ask you to turn to page 6 of our brief, and this is Sturgeon Tire on Bay Street. Maximum muffler. Incidentally, in the assessor's brief, and this confused me, in the assessor's brief, 970 Portage, in her comparable summary, shows as a 2-story building. and it would be impossible to do auto service garage on a second story. So I went and visited the people, and they have a mezzanine, but there's no two-story, just for clarification. But that maximum muffler 970 is in the assessor's comp list, but as a two-story building. Cal Tire Innsbruck is $13.80 is the actual lease rate for 15,000 square foot. That's one that the assessor also uses in her brief, and I would suggest because of the excess land, it's 196,425 square feet of land. It's all paved. I have photographs I'll pass on to finish up. Carstair is a legitimate metal basher. They're an auto body shop. They're on Chevrolet. Smaller, only 4,000 square feet, which probably speaks to why it's only $12 a square foot, but that's what they pay there. And Capital Ford is a unique one. That's the, used to be Landau, and before that Wiley and all these different folks. It's right by Polo Park. And for some reason, it's not treated by the department as a complete auto dealership, but rather as a vehicle service garage. And its rent is $10.14. So the median is $12.35, adjusted to $11.50. Why did I adjust it to $11.50? I don't know. Don't ask me that question, I don't know the answer. We're going to ask for the recoverables on page 7. We asked for the 5%. I don't know if you want to hear the arguments. Everybody happy with them? It's all of this smile. And I will pass this out, if I may. Got lots of them.
Sorry, what are we passing out
I'm
now?
passing out the interior shots.
Okay.
I'm fine with that, I haven't seen them, so.
I'll show you first. And I believe, and I didn't know my memories, but I think I met there with Ryan Valderrama.
No, would
No?
have
Or
been Mr.
Jeremy.
DeLuca. Okay.
DeLuca, no, I don't know Mr. DeLuca.
Okay.
Oh, you're,
I don't know, did they get one too, or?
yeah, I got it somewhere.
Okay.
That's the, that's from the inside. There is a small area. Sorry, you gotta share. Poor Magda, I dragged her here and forgot to give you that one to get. And maybe I'll pass this out too, just for discussion. You can see that this is a Cal Tire.
Okay.
Yes, the black
Those are-
and white copies.
Okay.
Okay.
Good one.
This is another one. This is,
I didn't know if you had it.
that was good.
Thank you.
And this is just one of the comps that the assessor used. And this was one that has, I think we adjusted the rent because this is a turnkey and it was filled out with hoists and all that good stuff.
Well, this one not this or so.
Oh, and did you see? I got more copies of it. Maybe some of these. So just you can see, and this isn't intended to be a bad shot, it just shows what it is. And if you go into the Mercedes Collision Center, which is just adjacent to their dealership but on a separate title, they give you a biscuit and a cup of cappuccino when you wait for your car. That's not what this is all about. This is functional. So I suggest that. I also have decisions. I don't know if you want decisions. Are you interested in decisions on dealerships?
Correct?
No. They're always here if you need them. And I
We
think
like to be
that-
independent.
yeah, I think that's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a question?
Question. I was just wondering, is comparable number 1, is that the correct ad? I couldn't find that location.
My number one?
Comparable 1, yes.
Okay, let's see what it is.
That would be Day Street and Transcona.
Oh, Day Street, yeah.
Is it,
Transcona, it's, as far as I know, yes.
oh,
370 Day, Sturgeon Train. It's right at the end of Regent, in there, whatever it becomes, I think. I haven't been to that one. I have, but not in many years.
And then for your comparables, is comparable 3 the newest build, I think?
That's Cal Tire, that's
Yes.
the one that showed you the photograph. And you can see it's got the asphalt parking lot, it's 10 acres asphalted. And that was a turnkey from, I interviewed the manager at Cal Tire.
I was just wondering how the lease rate was determined for that one, just because they provided us different information.
Well, what I did, you see, we adjusted, the median is 1235 of these.
Mhm.
And what we did is we adjusted to 1150 by bringing this rent down to 1380. But I should have brought the calculation, and the reason for that is when they leased the building, they also, it was a complete build-out.
Mhm.
And some of them, not ours, this has a hoist, but there's some that are pretty fancy, that have pits and everything. And that Cal Tire would have the pits underground to be able to fix the tires. And if that's built in, we try to factor that out because you're paying rent on equipment.
Okay, but
So I
that's
believe
not-
that's how it was done, but I didn't bring the explanation for the adjustment, I'm sorry.
So it's not the lease rate in place though?
No, the lease plate was 26, it was
Okay.
very, very high, recall?
Okay,
It was, hang on, sure,
I think we have it as $28 instead.
yeah, 20, yes, it's extraordinarily high. 28.79 a square foot, and that was a question I had, is how can that be? And it can be because it's a large piece of land, it's also rented. And the reason, probably, this is out on Oak Point Highway, and it probably, and I don't know this, because I don't know much about semi-trailers other than it scared the hell out of me. They probably want to service semi-trailers and tires, so they got this big piece of land, it's all asphalt. So I think it has to be adjusted. Not that it's not a comparable,
Mhm.
but comparables need comparative adjustments.
Okay. And then for, just in regards to lease start dates, do you have any of the lease information on how long some of these are?
I think I do, which,
Specifically,
You know what, I
I
did-
couldn't find really anything on comparable ones, so I was just curious about that one.
yeah, I'm not sure,
Okay,
sorry.
it's okay. I think that's all my questions.
Thank you. Questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Story, these are, the subject property is owner occupied.
Yes.
Do you believe that there should be the recovery cost?
Yes, I do,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So, when these owners, for tax purposes, et cetera, they write leases
Yeah.
that can either be market value or whatever they wish.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm just, I sort of question if it's owner occupied, how can they have,
well, the board
recovery?
is in owner occupied for the most part, assuming that they recover everything because they're charging themselves.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely sure, that's correct.
Yeah.
However, if you're really valuing the property, if you're a purchaser valuing the property, you have to anticipate that through the life of the property, that's gonna have some costs that down the road you may not be able to recover. So we're both right, but the board, for the most part, has not been accepting the 5% for owner occupied.
Your cap rate, do you feel like if the city's at, the 6.4, you're 1% higher, do you feel like that is applicable?
I think that, to be honest with you, Mr. Mayor, I think that the cap rate at 7.4 for an auto dealership or an auto body is probably low in the real world, because they don't transact, they don't sell. Why don't they sell? Because if you're a developer and you're gonna build a built-to-suit building spec'd by the manufacturer, GM tells you how it has to be, not the owner, not the franchisee. You're not gonna do it. You might as well own the business. You're bearing all the risk of the car dealership. And there's no alternate use, immediate alternate use without major renovation, rejuvenation of the dealership, because they're built with certain finishes and qualities. So cap rates, there are no sales of dealerships, and there are no sales of, I don't ever see sales of body shops. Interestingly enough, the proof is in the pudding. Boyd Auto Body came along because people in the auto body business right across North America had no way to get out of it once you were in it. There's no market to sell it. So how do you get out of it? You roll your dealership into a publicly traded company and take back stock, and you've created an exit strategy. They have to go to that trouble, and it's been successful, but they have to go to that trouble because that particular industry, auto body guys, had no place to sell to. There's nobody's buying it. There's no goodwill. You only crash your car once or twice in a lifetime. I crash mine a couple of times a year. But I have no loyalty to an auto body shop. I may go back there, I may not. Auto Pack gives you a paper, you go take it wherever you want. So they're different animals. They're not typical.
So
I think that
when you look at your value,
Yeah.
you also look at some of the costs that are involved. Okay, like you can approach the subject on an income approach.
Yeah.
Okay, but also you look at the cost. And I'm just saying, here's a building, cost estimate.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And there's also a sale of land, so, I'm just trying to relate in regards to value, so,
Yeah.
and you're at 6.6,
Well,
so,
he's a motivated purchaser because he wants to get the metal banging away from the main dealers. He also has a problem in terms of 1400, which is a big dealership right on the corner of, or right across from Northgate. Only has a 2-to-1 land to building ratio, which is way low for a car dealership. And that's why he had to buy 1412 across the street, just to have a place to do his auto body at one time, his detailing shop. So it's a motivated purchaser, and I can assure you that I can guarantee you that the cost to produce a typical dealership in Winnipeg, and there's lots of them, on a cost basis exceeds what the assessments are. And why is that? Because of the cap rate, because of the risk. There's no market. You're building something, Mr. Merritt, that nobody's going to buy. Even a car dealership.
Yeah.
It's scary.
yeah.
That's the difficulty. So that's why we're dealing with such a unique type of property.
Okay, I thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one question. Just so you provided a picture of the subject property.
Combined?
Just, you provided a picture of the
Yes.
subject property.
Yeah.
But that, I'm assuming, is, what you've provided is the auto body part. But are there offices?
No, there are no offices, but there's a counter, and the counter is for budget rent-a-car. So what they do is they have a small counter, they have a buzzer, and if you're interested in renting a car, because your car's in there, you press the buzzer and the girl comes over from the dealership. The dealerships have budget rental cars as well. They have little rental, and most car dealerships are affiliated with some rental company, but they don't keep cars there, they buzz them in. So yes, there's a fence, but I only took the one picture. This is the back of the building. There is no office per se, no office space for staff. There's a manager who has a very small desk area. It's primarily open, and I took the picture just to show that there's no high finishes in it. But it's just a counter where they have budget rent-a-car. It's not very big.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Some questions.
Thank you. I just have one, looking at your comparables and actually looking at the assessors as well. Most of these are considerably smaller than the subject property that we're looking at, right?
Considerably, yeah. The first case, it's 10%.
Yeah, number 5 is the only one that's even close, and,
Yeah, and that's a complete auto dealer,
right,
Capital Ford.
right, and it's considerably older than the,
Well, but it's been, Capital Ford was land out before that was
yes.
Mr. Wiley. You might remember Mr. Wiley. Other folks won't. But it's been rebuilt many times. As a matter of fact, it's rebuilt in the last 3 or 4 years.
So do you think
There's
the
land,
size of the property has an impact on the potential market lease rate, or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, 40,000 square foot auto body shop, you're expecting to be pretty busy. But he owned he had the land, and That's a big auto body shop.
Okay.
But he does a lot of business too, so a lot of dealerships. Because I think the Gauthier Group, mind you, they have another collision center on Regent. We're going to be dealing with it in a few minutes. So he's got a dealership over there because he's got several car dealerships on Regent as well.
So just one other thing, you mentioned, I think early on when you were asking questions, that there's no market for this type of business.
In theory, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's sort of my question. I mean, if most auto dealerships want to have an auto body shop associated with, so
Yeah.
that I would think that it may not be sold separately, but it might be part of a transaction that included auto dealerships, correct?
Yeah, that doesn't happen. You're saying if you sold the auto dealerships, would those go with it? Not
I'm saying that
necessarily.
this owner wouldn't sell this separately from the auto dealerships.
Oh, there's nobody to buy it. I know it, he wouldn't. But because he still needs it. What's happened is that over the years, as they started improving the finishing, they all of a sudden decided that the last thing you want your customers who are looking to buy a new car to do is come to a dealership and walk through a junkyard or a bunch of damaged cars. You see crashed windshields where heads have gone through and stuff. That's not very appealing. So they started trying to break them apart.
Okay.
And so you'll see that all of them, I stopped at Danbury's this morning, it's just here. Delary has one now, out in Waverly. Points West is on, or pardon me, Birchwood Group's on Pandora. There's been a decision on it recently that I refer you to. It's Pandora, it's 1055 Pandora. And same thing, that's the Birchwood Automotive Group.
So they're all
Danbury has a
associated with
collision
each
center.
other, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
But the dealerships don't sell either, and that's the issue.
Okay.
There have been a couple of sales in the last couple of years, but in terms of land and building, they don't generally sell.
All right, do either of you wish to summarize?
I'm good, thank you.
All right.
All right,
I think this will speed up some of the other ones too. Because the carry,
yes,
I'm
we've
okay.
covered a lot of territory
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. I marked on the shelf first.
Okay. The
I'll
second
wait it out.
property
That's
is,
okay, I'll wait.
sorry, oh, he's just giving you that. 176 Gary Street.
Okay. This is not auto related, I don't.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This is file number
Just
19
one
dash,
second.
sorry.
Oh, really sorry.
I've told you this already. So. I have it, thank you.
This is file number 19-4136, roll number 12093-200000, address is 176 Gary Street. So I'll just start off to say that we are asking that the burden of proof be placed on the applicant for non-cooperation following section 53(3)B of the Municipal Assessment Act, and if a reduction in assessment is ordered, that it follows section 54(3.2 of the Municipal Assessment Act. So I'm asking for this based on a multi-roll submission, so I'll turn you to page 6 is the beginning of the 2017 income expense question I filled out. And then on page 7, it just shows the data consolidated with roll numbers, and there's 4 roll numbers. Just so for this one, I couldn't really make out anything in regards to this property. There is nothing specific, and as for multi-roll, we can't usually break it out, so I'll be asking for that today. And it's just based on the fact that it's a multi-roll submission.
All right. Do you have comments, Mr. Story?
Yes. So you're not suggesting they didn't comply, but rather you're suggesting they shouldn't have done multi-roll.
Yes, I couldn't figure out anything in regards to this property from the multi-roll submission.
You know, it's Stevenson and Company, they're usually right around here somewhere. You could have asked them. Does the city make any attempt to follow up? I mean, this is a derelict building that they used to store signs. Where would it fit in the questionnaire?
Well, they could have just wrote even on the front of it that If there is parking stalls behind the building, I don't know if those are generating income. I don't know what the building's being currently used for. Even if they just point us in the direction of any costs or any income that's being generated by this property, but from the mailer, I can't determine any of that, so.
Well, okay, but on page 7, you can see they're consolidated rolls, and they include 176 Gary,
Yes.
right? And somebody could have, and look what they did, Stevens, goodness sakes, look at the questionnaire. The letter. So they've given the full financial statements, 8 through 10, correct?
Yes.
And then this is one building that they bought at 260 St. Mary's, and then with it came the parking lots in separate pieces, and this one funny little building on 176. Okay? And then there's a master rent roll, and there's no reference to 176 because it's empty and determined to be derelict. And then we go to page 16, and they've explained everything you could possibly explain. You see on 16? Where they say financial information on this property does not necessarily match with the categories in the assessor's form. I mean, they give you a reason for why they're having trouble filling it out. I don't think you can do much more than that as a property owner. Look at the dissertation, page 16, 17, 18, signed by Christy Pearson. Anyways, professional, you agree that Stevenson are professional management?
Yes.
Okay. They even talked about where information is for multiple roll property, any breakdown by roll number. They didn't give you the justification on page 16. I think with all the effort they made, it was incumbent upon the city, if the city had a problem, that they would pick up a phone and ask for clarification. And if they told you that the building isn't used, it's been decommissioned, you may or may not still be looking for non-compliance. So I would ask that the board have a look at the evidence that's been supplied. The basis of this is, of non-compliance, is to penalize people, penalize them when they don't comply and make it hard for the city of Winnipeg to develop the assessment roll. This is very simple. You pick up the phone, you send a letter, and they've given you copious amounts of numbers in the financial statements. And this is a very small assessment, and I don't really like to bother the board with it, but I think that the spirit is that they complied. They answered the questionnaire. They've done more than I've ever seen before on a questionnaire. They talk about it being consolidated roles, but they explain why they're consolidated. So I asked the board to consider not allowing the assessor.
Okay, thank you. The board will deliberate. Leave it in.
Yeah, I just want to ask you a couple questions.
sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Story, the subject property is 176, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you represent the owner?
The owner, yes.
Okay, so do you represent the owner for 170 also? Is that under appeal too?
No.
No?
I don't believe it is.
And what about the other ones?
Well,
St.
we
Mary's?
just finished the main building. The main building is where the Law Society, Carbone Pizza, Club 200.
Okay.
And what happens is all that land on the south side of the building is parking for 260. And this one has given over their small building to Indigo. They store signs in there, it's not used, the building's not occupied, it's just storage. It's a derelict building, it's coming down, be it for parking or when there's a development opportunity. But I don't believe they did 170. I know we did 260. 170 is probably just a surface parking lot. I don't know if that answers your question, Mr. Mayor.
So what goes on in this building right now?
Nothing, it's just,
Nothing?
it's cold
Shelf?
storage, signs, it's indigo signs.
Okay.
You know,
Any
it's
heat?
the old,
Any heat to the building?
Anyway,
Any heat?
you know, I'm not sure, I don't think so, but I'm gonna say I don't.
I
I know
don't
it's
have any
a,
further questions.
In the questionnaire, I think they show it's derelict.
I just have a question to the assessor. So on page 3 of your brief, it shows under your request for information for 2016 and 2017, you've got incomplete. Do you have any information on the prior years?
Yes, so the last time we received a mailer specific for this property that was not considered a multi-roll would have been 2013 sales mailer, and from what I got from that sales mailer, it was someone had just scribbled on their vacant building, 6 parking stalls, and there was no income listed or anything. That's all I got from that one.
Okay. And then after that, it got rolled into...
It just rolled in, yes. I think
So it was derelict since 2013?
it was,
according
the
to-
sale was 13, that's why it was the previous owner filling it out.
Right.
To give that
Okay.
260,000, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all my questions.
And I have no additional questions.
Just if I may have followed. So it's not non-compliant, it's incomplete, probably for the multi-rolls.
For the multi-rolls.
But multi-roll, I mean, you got an office building, several tens of thousands of square feet of leaseable space, and then you got a little building in the back, almost a mechanical building. Would that be multi-roll? That's considered multi-roll because there's 2 of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Did you guys want to go?
We'll go outside.
Okay.
We can wait.
No, it's okay. Good to
Stretch.
stand up. And there's an empty room. All right, we'll call this meeting back to order. I'm assuming that we've gotten through a lot of the information now and that we should move along a little more quickly. Are you ready to go?
Oh, have you
Um,
moved to
this
say?
is-
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we make a decision?
It's a surprise.
You have to guess. Sorry, you guys, I'm new at this. The board has deliberated and we've made a decision to deny your request for non-compliance. So you can go ahead.
Thank you. So I've already gone through the file and roll number, I think. The address is 176 Gary Street. So it was an old car-related service building, built in 1950. Leasable area of 1,300 square feet. For this property on page 2, I have a aerial shot of it, just a narrow lot off on Gary, and then the exterior photo just shows the building. On page 3, we have the subject sale history, an older sale from 2013, and for subject property leases, the only thing I could find from 2013 was that the building was vacant and there were 6 parking stalls. I couldn't find it though on like an in-park or anything website, so I didn't apply a parking stream to it. So this one actually is valued on land for a model, and we have a land area of 3,127 square feet at a rate of $95.57 for a land value of $299,000. I have 4 land sale comparables in the downtown. They range from $66.64 to $142.28. The oldest sale is from 2015, newest is from 2017. And when I checked last year, it was also valued on land as well. And on page 4, obviously we don't have to look at capitalization rates, and I think that's pretty much it based for this property. So my recommendation today would just be to maintain the 2020 assessed value of the $299,000. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Okay, do you have questions, Mr. Story?
How did you account for the demolition of the existing structure?
We didn't, we just have it strictly valued on land.
It's about $10 a square foot to demolish a building and clean it up, clean up the site. This is a small site. Would $50,000, in your opinion, be reasonable to cost to demolish the building?
I don't know if I can speak to that because I don't really have any
Okay.
background knowledge on
Okay.
it, but I'll take your word for it if you
Okay,
know.
those are all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Merritt?
I have none, Madam.
Ms. Linklater?
Just a quick question, because this was Acme Radiator Services. Would there be any contamination on this site? Would there be any asbestos?
There's no notes in the system. I don't know when the last time someone's been in there. But and from when it sold, there was no information for the sale regarding any of that, but it's possible due to the age and prior tenant.
Sorry, and I'm just having a little trouble in terms of the pictures on page 2 of your brief. So there is no parking, it's just
It's a
the
very,
slice of it's just the building and what's behind it?
Yes,
Is
so
that my understanding?
you can fit 6 stalls diagonally.
Behind the building?
Yes,
Okay.
I wouldn't say more than that. I don't think.
Thank you, that's all my questions.
I don't have any further questions. Mr. Story?
Thank you. No, I'm fine. With questions, right?
Presentation, are you going to do your
Oh,
presentation?
presentation,
We'll
sorry.
finish the question.
Okay, we've probably all driven by this building hundreds of times, but it's the old Acme Radiator. And as the assessor has indicated, the reports are that it's been vacant since 2013. And that's what I understand to be the case as well. Our clients just bought these properties, and to be honest with you, there's a degree of uncertainty. If you look at page 3 of our brief, this is an overview. You can see the assessors indicated that they parked 6 cars back there. We went to the property manager and said, do you generate any revenue from those? And they said she didn't know, but if they did, it would be including the revenue of the 170, the big surface parking lot. Go to the last page. Page 4, and this is just Darka Smith is the property manager, and this particular property was just acquired in the last year, I think, in 2018 or 19, and she reports to us on January 13th. And 176 Gary is a parcel of land that is part of 260 St. Mary's and 170 Gary that we manage for Randy Shartner and Andrew Lowen. Mar West does not own the property. 176 Gary is situated behind 260 St. Mary's Avenue and has a standalone building with some parking in a row behind it. 170 Gary is another parcel of land situated behind 176 Gary that consists of the parking, just the parking lot. That's the surface parking lot I mentioned that would have any revenue to be in there. 176 Gary is being used by Indigo for storage. It's a derelict building that isn't rentable to anyone. There's no rent collected for the building, if you have any. And they mentioned to me that the building is decommissioned, and that would lead me to assume that there's no heat, and there'd be no heat if there's no water, there'd be no point. I don't believe it's heated, but I don't know for a fact. What I'm suggesting is $95 a square foot is a little bit rich for downtown property. I'm not going to go to a lot of trouble, but I know that if there's no asbestos, and I'm assuming there isn't, and there's no contamination, and I'm assuming there is, it's an impacted site, meaning it's not necessarily contaminated, but it's impacted. It has the threat of being contaminated because of the use over the years. But I know that we usually use about $10 a square foot to take down a building and whatnot. Because this is so small, 3,000 square feet, I respectfully ask that the board allow $50,000 for demolition to bring the assessment down to $250 for the year as opposed to $299. It's just a solution. It may be acceptable, it may not. I don't think the building will be here for next cycle, so. Those are my presentation.
Do you have any questions?
I know there's a post-reference sale, but did you have any information on the sale from 2013 at all?
The sale from 12 and 13?
For 2013.
No, I don't.
No. That's all my questions, thank you.
You know what? That just dawned on me, why you got those glaring reports. Stevenson used to own this building. That's why. He's going to report there, that's why. No, no, I don't know.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I just realized they owned it.
Mr. Mayor?
I have no questions now.
Ms. Lindblad?
I have no questions, thank you.
And I have no further questions. So that brings our item to a close. Next item is 1334 St. James. We're looking at the value today. Please go ahead.
Thank you.
Just one second.
Oh, no, sorry.
I've got it. I'm actually doing very well. I'm just one step behind the world. Kind of my life. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, thank you. This is file number 19-3900, roll number 07001, 542500. Address is 1334 St. James Street. This is a vehicle service related property. It was actually year built 1965. We have an effective year built in 1969, and we have a leasable area of 4,068 square feet. If you turn to my page 2, aerial shot of the property. It is just south of Saskatchewan Avenue, located on St. James Street, across from Russell Metals. I just have the one exterior photo on the bottom, and I can't say I've ever been in this building and there was no photos. On page 3, just a request for information that's been received. We have a subject sale. From what I can tell, that sale was an arm's length transaction. I didn't look too much into the parties. One thing I did look into more though was the subject property leases. The mailer states it is net at, it works out to $9.61 per square foot. But I did, from some research, find out it's an owner-occupied property, so I'm not putting weight on that. On page 4, I have the vehicle service garage income stream. We have a rent of $10.78 per square foot. We have the vacancy loss of 4%, the expenses at 2%, and the shortfall at $4.50 per square foot, and an overall capitalization rate of 6.05%, to give us an estimated market value of $670,000. On page 5 is my comparables I've already gone through. On page 6 is the income value summary, 7 is the model drive capitalization rates, and on page 9 we come to the income and expense questionnaire. So it does state that it's net. They do show the rental income, and for leasable area they have the lot size. And on page 11 it just shows the Keystone Auto tenant, which again is owner occupied. So I think I've gone through most of my brief already, and my recommendation today would be to maintain the 2020 assessed value with $670,000. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Story. You have questions?
Yes. I'm going to say, have you inspected?
I have not, no.
Okay, you can tell by the cover of our brief or your page. Yes, thank you. The quality of the building, it's the blue building. It's like a steel building. It's a bit oversigned. This is on St. James Street, quite far north, almost at
Almost
Dublin.
in Saskatchewan, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and it's got a 3-to-1 lens to building ratio, is that correct?
Yes.
And again, you use the same comparables, and you come up with an adjusted median today by taking out if you're in the 1250. Why did you assign 10?
That would just be through the model. So based on a model, based on the size of the building, the age, the location, it generated the $10.78 per square foot.
And cap rate again, this was vehicle service garage,
yes.
there is no category in your cap rate study.
No, and it'd just be model drive.
If anything, it would qualify as retail, if anything.
Also, they're
And-
providing a service to,
Yeah, and we're seeing the city sending the property owners rates of 7.4%, so the 6.5 doesn't seem to be supported by the study. Are you aware that there was a decision last year, or last cycle?
yes, I saw that there was a decrease based on some adjustments.
And in your opinion, and based on your experience, are you seeing any cap rate compression in this? You don't have cap rate. It's kind of hard. Would you anticipate there'd be cap rate compression in retail in North America from 218 to 220?
I didn't
16,
deal with
18?
too many 18 ones, so I'm not super familiar with the cap rates that were generated, but
Okay.
I'm just using the model drive one today.
And the cap rate, are you aware that the cap rate from last cycle was 7.25%?
That was the board's decision, yes.
Yeah, and that board, well, I was here, can't tell you why they said that. That's all I have.
Mr. Merrick?
I have no questions for them.
Ms. Linkletter?
Just one quick question, you did not inspect, you have no notes on inspection?
No.
Okay. Then, I'm not sure if this is a question or strictly an observation, but we had just looked at an auto body dealership that was new with a cap rate of 6.4, but this one has 6.0.
It's a lower.
Which it's a 50-year-old building.
Mhm.
Okay, that's all.
I'm guessing it's just based on, again, like some of the parameters. Thank you.
That was my question as well. Cap rate seemed low.
It seems low, yes.
That's all my questions. Mr. Story, you can go ahead with.
Yes, okay, I'm gonna make a suggestion here. Thank you. It's this is an unspectacular building, to say the least. It's functional. It's an auto body shop. It's a legitimate auto body, not big volume, low volume. It's actually, it's by Russell Steel, but it's also at the exit to Costco. It's virtually impossible to get onto that street like coming out of Costco. And that was taken into consideration last cycle. But the cap rate was compressed a little bit because of the proximity to the park. They thought it might be better. So I'm going to make a suggestion that the assessment last year was 605.5. I'm going to suggest a 6% increase to 640. The numbers don't make any sense. $10 is lower than we've generally seen for this type of building. That's what the city's using as a modeling. It is an inferior quality of construction. It doesn't have a great land to building ratio. It may have an opportunity down the road as a car lot or something of that nature because of the traffic counts and the proximity to Polo Park on St. James Street. But it was, the assessment last cycle was $702,000. It was reduced to, let's go to our brief, actually. It's in here. Yeah, it's on page 9 and 10 of our brief. You can see it was 702 last year. It was reduced to 605. I don't think there's been cap rate compression. I think it should be the same, but I'm suggesting a 6% increase. Maybe because Costco's moving over there, I don't know. But they are actually. So that's my position. I don't have a lot to say about this
Thank
problem.
you.
Just to confirm, was it 640?
No, yeah, I'm asking you for 640 this year, 605.5 last
Okay.
year.
That's
And nothing's
my
changed, it's
question.
the same guy doing the same, he
Yeah.
does limited number of cars.
Okay,
And
thank you.
he's a very nice young man.
Mr. Merrick?
And Mr. Story, how did you arrive at the 640?
I took last year's
Okay. And then
decision
just
and
added
added
6%?
6%.
Okay.
Yeah,
And why 6%?
3% a year for 2 years.
Okay.
What is it worth? Who knows?
Okay, thank you.
I have no questions.
I have no question.
Well, that was fast.
Moving on, we have 1355 Regent, and we're looking at qualifiers. No one ready?
This is file number 19-3898, roll number 09007375800. Address is 1355 Regent Avenue West. This is a collision center. There's also a budget, I think, in there, a car rental. The effective year built is 1984. And we have a leasable area of 12,330 square feet. If you turn to page 2, I just have an aerial shot of the photo, just located on Regent, on the north side of the street. And for the exterior photo, I just have the one at the bottom. No interior photos, and I had no notes of a fire inspection to kind of go off. So for page 3, just shows the income and expense response received. Some sales, obviously with the sale price of $1, I didn't look into. And for the subject property leases, I determined it was owner occupied. On page 4, we have the vehicle service garage income stream. We have applied a rate of $12.82 per square foot to 12,330 square feet. Vacancy of 4%, expenses at 2%, and an overall capitalization rate of 6.55%. So it gives us an estimated value of $2,237,000. On page 5, it's my rent comparables we've gone through, and I think most of the brief. We've turned to page 9, just to show the 2017 income and expense questionnaire. Just shows fully owner occupied, so not taking into account that gross rent. And on page 11, just confirms the leasable area from the tenant. And so my recommendation today would be to maintain the 2020 assessed value of the $2,237,000. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Okay. Mr. Story, do you have a question?
Okay, you just, clarification, you indicated that you hadn't inspected interior other
I
than...
have not.
Okay. You did mention it's a budget and it's a Gautier Collision Center that also has a counter for budget, just a counter.
Yeah, I would say.
Okay. And then at the other end, you see Gautier, and that's where
Mhm.
they have another service bay. This is on the Regent, it's another mini mall, mini auto mall. What can I say about it? Land to building is 3.9. Believe it or not, GM would like to see 8:1 land to building ratio, so 3.9 is perhaps acceptable for a collision center. You indicated where it is, you didn't tell us all, but it's right beside the casino. Easy to find. And again, your cap rate and your market rent is model driven?
Yes, I was, both of them are.
Okay. And the 1282, you're saying that even if you adjust even with your copious number of comparable comps here, it would be 1250, correct? And are you aware that the excuse me for 1 second here. Yes. Are you aware that the assessment last year was $1,787,000?
Yes, I think the decision, our NOI was confirmed and then the cap rate was changed by about 1%. So
Mm.
that's pretty much the big differences are model.
So this is showing there like 500,000 in increased value in a market that, in your opinion, is your impression of cap rate?
I haven't reviewed too many cap rates, so I'm unsure on that. but-
Okay. That's all, those are all my questions. Thank you.
Mr. Barrett?
I have none, madam.
Ms. Ledbetter?
I have none, thank you.
And I have none. Oh, Mr. Story, your presentation.
Yes, thank you. Just ask you to look at the front page. You can see that it's a property that's been revamped a bit. It was one time it was a retail car dealership and it was too small to be functional. It again, similar to the collision center on Templeton, it has the budget counter for people wanting to climb into a car. This particular property is 35 years old. And if you just go to our brief, service related, it's on 1.1 acres. Interestingly enough, you can't build you don't qualify to build a Tim Hortons if you only have 1.1 acres. So a car dealer or an auto body that's a tight land to building ratio. We go to our page 3. Again, the assessor's using 12.82. We're suggesting 11.5. We're suggesting we have an error I see on our shortfall, but we'll ignore that. I would take out the 5%. I would treat this as owner operated, although it's part of the whole negotiated group. And I would ask for 7.5% cap rate based on the industry, based on the location, based on the land to building ratio, based on the ceiling height, et cetera, et cetera. And I would ask for an assessment. I'd have to make an adjustment to the, but I'd ask 11.50 market rent and 7.50 cap rate. Thank you. Oh, I might have more, hang on. I think I saw a picture. I did, I don't know. Oh, just to show the, page 6 and 7 just show the fact that it's very tight on the site. Page 8 just shows these comps, and these are legitimate auto body shops at 11.50. And there's our decision. It went from 1.9 down to 1.787. Put in non-recoverables, but I believe the board is accepting these as owner-occupied, which they reflect in their questionnaire.
So do you have a new value for us?
I'll do
again?
it. Can I have 1 second to do it? And I'll take out the 5% and then I'll
Okay.
give it to you. So this is, someone should be 450.
I got that. To take a look, okay?
Yeah, just do it on the front, too.
2219. 2219.
Go to his numbers, he's got the new value.
Okay. I come up to 1,802,426.
That's just removing the 5%?
5% and adjusting the vacancy, that 562 should be
Oh,
450.
so the shortfall,
Yeah,
okay.
shortfall, it's wrong number. Should be
Okay, so what was that
450.
number again? Sorry.
1,802,426. Say 1,803,000.
So you've taken the.
I've taken out the 5% completely.
Right, and,
I end up with an NOI of 135,182, and I apply my 7.5 cap.
okay.
I practiced accounting for years, I can't add anymore. So I'll get one, hopefully one of you will check that. I came up with an NOI of 135,182.
So your shortfall rate, you've gone back to 4,
135?
Yeah, 493 at 450 would be 2219.
okay,
I'll give you the exact numbers. So the 136, 123 is the net rent, with the
Right.
vacancy. And 2219 is a shortfall. 2722 is a 2%, 0 is a 5%. And that gives us 4941 off of the 136, 123 would be 135, 182. At cap would be 1.802. Did anybody get that number? We're close? Everybody's frantically hitting the machine. I think that's right.
Yeah, I'm there,
You got the same number?
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
thank goodness. Thank you.
Yep.
And that's my presentation.
Hang on, I don't think I do get the same number.
Well,
So we
I
start.
rounded a little higher.
Yeah.
We had 135,182 for NOI.
I don't understand how we get 135, 182 for the NOI if the gross rent is 136
That's
and we're
Mr.
taking
Story.
away 4,000, almost 5,000,
Sounds right?
right?
I didn't get the same.
Yeah, 136, 123.
Right? And you
That's-
take away 2219, and then
Yeah.
you take away 2722 for the
Correct.
2%.
Yeah,
That can't be 135.
what do you come up with?
I don't know, but it can't be. It can't be that.
Yeah, let's find out why it can't be. Okay, so the 2219 plus 2722, right? It's 4911, that's what I had.
I get 131, 182.
136, 123, 49, 41,
That's right.
minus
Take that away from 136, 123.
131, 182.
Right.
You're right, I'm sorry.
And then 7.5 apply the cap rate,
Yes,
right?
correct. Sorry about that, I don't know how I did that. I'll blame the calculator.
Well, that would probably be fair. Which gives us a number of 1,749,000.
Okay.
Is that correct? Everybody
Yes.
agrees?
It's on the graph.
Well, I agree to the figure.
That's all I'm asking, just to be clear. All right, now, do you have any questions?
No.
Mr. Mayor?
No, thank you.
No? And I have no questions.
Good.
Okay. Ugh,
You had
that's
a good
hard work.
one. You had one whopper, that's all you did.
That's why we have so many people in the room. Make sure somebody can.
What's the next topic?
Pardon me?
1425 McPhillips.
Okay.
We're going to 1425 McPhillips, and whenever you're ready.
Okay, so this is file number 19-4635, roll number 11040, 681500, 1425 Phillips Street. This is a vehicle service related, it's actually a gas station with car wash. It was built in 2004. And we have a leasable area of 4,580 square feet. If you turn to page 2, you can see the aerial photos. It's located on Phillips, kind of in the Northgate Shopping Mall vicinity. I just have the one exterior photo at the bottom. On page 3, the request for income and expense was received, and we have no subject sale history. So for the subject property leases, I reviewed the income and expense questionnaire, and we determined there was a 10-year lease. The current step is a 3-year portion, and I can get to that when I get to the mailer. I didn't write it down here. And what I determined was their charged rent $7,625 a month, times the 12 months gives us the $91,500 for rent, which if I divide between our combined leasable area.
Excuse me, I'm in the wrong file. What is the address?
1425 McPhillips.
The guest is, okay,
Central Kent.
Okay. Can't read those numbers. Could you go back that, where was that 93,000?
So the rent I determined for the year was $91,500. And if I divide it by the leasable area for the gas station and car dealership, it comes up to $19.98 per square foot. So if we go to the income workups now to kind of see where we're at there, page 4 is the vehicle car wash income workup. We've applied a rental rate of $9.13 per square foot. For the car washes, we have a 2% vacancy, 2% expenses, $4.50 shortfall, and 5.4% cap rate. So that gives us $362,000. And then if we move on to the store on page 5, we have $33.44 per square foot. We have 2% vacancy, 2% expenses, a $6 for shortfall, and a 6.15% cap for $1,701,000. On page 6 is our gas station pad site rent comparables. So this one has a bigger gas station area, so I look more towards comp 1. For that one there, we have the rent at $40.25. Gas stations, those ones, based on our stuff, range from $7.72 to $14.51. And then again, for the larger sites, comp 6, older gas station, but has a greater site area, comes in at $29.91. And comp 12 comes in newer co-op at $42.92 per square feet for the gas station part. On page 7, our potential rent is coming in at $98,458, so about I think $7,000 higher than what they've reported. And then if you divide ours for an overall, let's just say blended rate for this, we come up with $21.50. So we're close to the $19.98, we're just slightly higher. The income value summary shows all the model parameters applied. And if we turn to page 8, the model capitalization rates. And then I'll get to the mailer. So for 2017 income and expense questionnaire on page 10. We have to turn to page, so starting on page 14 is their income statement, but if we want to look directly at this subject, we look at page 17, and we just see the Petro-Canada, and you can see the current date is May 1st, 2013 to April 30th, 2018, and that's where I got the monthly rent from. That's the current step they're on, and that's where all my information has come from for that. And my recommendation today would be to maintain a 2020 assessed value of $2,063,000. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Mr. Story, you have a question?
Yes, I just, I thought we were going along splendidly, but I realized that we had different numbers. In the workup, in the city workup, the matter of public record, they show 2,330 square feet at $25 and 2,250 at $747. Did that change?
For which?
Well,
Something for me?
okay, well, we're in agreement with your, what is your total rent, market rent?
So the model generated rent for ours is $90,458
Oh, okay.
for
we got-
both.
So we got the same then, yeah.
Yeah.
So we agree with you,
Okay,
yeah, but we question the cap.
the cap rate.
Okay, now, this is a gas station,
Yes,
it has a car wash.
yes.
Do you know where it's situated?
I think the car wash is in the
No,
rear.
not the car wash, it's a different car wash.
Mhm.
That's my point.
Oh.
There's two car washes. Okay, so it's situated 1399, which is Northgate Shopping Center, the redeveloped shopping center. But this has been a long-established tenant
Gas
before the redevelopment.
Yes.
How could Service Station have a 5.99 cap rate? Your model provides that?
It's blended between the two. We have the 6.15 applied to the gas station, and then we have the 5.4 applied to the car wash. So it's just the blended cap rate, I guess, would be.
But you've had some experience with the department. Does that not seem odd that the cap rate would be under 6% in the city of Winnipeg retail for a gas station on somebody else's land? The cap rate seems awfully low to me, like awfully low.
Okay, I previously dealt with some gas stations recently. It was the same information, so it doesn't seem odd to me, but that's just our model drive numbers.
Did you handle Plessis, 1400 Plessis?
No, I would have just dealt with Red River Co-ops so far.
Well, the Plessis was a recent decision last week, and it was over 7%. Are you aware of that?
No,
And it's brand new, they just opened the shell.
okay.
Okay, I don't, that's all I've got. Just a couple of questions. So, let's just talk about cap rate, and if you're gonna go and open your own service station someday, what you'd perceive risk to be. Immediately across, did you know where the site is? Have you seen the site? Have you been there?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay, then. Immediately across the street is a Super Pumper Safeway store. It was Safeway, I don't know what it's called now, but still got the gas pumps. Right across the street, you're aware of that?
I think it's just a bit north, but
Well,
yeah, I am aware of where that
A
is.
bit north, but not very
Yeah.
far north, like steps. And you're aware that on the same site, on the same physical site is another Domo. There's a Domo right in front of Moore Center as you enter Northgate.
Mhm.
Okay. So there are, and then going down the street, if you go a little further north, you run into a superstore,
Yes.
and I believe they might even have gas pumps. I think they do. So there's, now, let's talk about car washes. So there's a wand wash, pardon me, a drive-through wash attached to this, not attached, but on the same site as this petrol can. Okay?
Yes.
On the same site, the identical site, which we're going to be doing in a few minutes,
Mhm.
is a wand car wash.
Mhm.
So there's two car washes, not
Yes.
one. And there's two on the site, competitive gas stations,
Mhm.
and one across the street.
Mhm.
And based on your experience, have rent on these type of, on gas stations, rent is generally driven by traffic counts, by access and egress and traffic counts?
The rent generated like through the pad sites?
No, just generally, what happens is when a developer looks at building a gas station, and he has to have a lease to do it, because someone's going to pay for those pumps at the end. He looks at traffic counts to see whether the economic, that's his feasibility study, his traffic counts. Here your traffic counts are interrupted because you have another gas station. Not only that, but heading north, you hit Domo before you hit the petrol can. Domo pumps the gas, petrol can, you pump your own. They're doing a little bit of a price war, so now Domo and Petrocan are competing for price, so they're not even making a differentiation anymore. They're just fighting for the same business. So these are all things, would you agree, you have to take into consideration in establishing cap rate?
I would think with gas stations though, on a busy thoroughfare like this, there has to be a number of them, and depending on what side of the street
Not
they're.
on the same lot. Not
Oh,
on the
no,
same property.
but there's,
I don't think you'll find that anywhere. However, we'll get into
but
that.
the
And then you're aware that there's inherent risk. Some property owners won't even entertain a gas station because of the underground storage tanks. canopies and the pumps, because those are treated by assessors as capital at cost, and they don't necessarily adjust, unless we ask them to, the cap rate for the risk inherent in if that tenant were to leave and not take out the tanks. It's a massive cost to a developer. And developers are afraid of contaminating adjacent property by something called leaching. It gets into the water table and away it goes. So there's inherent risk in owning a gas station. Would you agree with that?
I'm just confused by it. So if you're saying that if it were to sell, it's not the current owner's responsibility to remove the tank?
Yes, typically on the leases,
Mhm.
they require
Okay.
that the existing tenant, the new tenant, pay the rent, and it's incumbent upon him to remove the tank and remediate the land, i.e. return it to its former
Yes.
condition. So there's risk in it. Many developers, I'm going to suggest the majority of them in this city, are not interested in building and leasing on their land to gas stations. So that's risk, and that has to be reflected in the cap rate. In addition to that, no, I think it's okay. Okay, so that's all I have to say. Those are my questions.
Thank you.
I made a speech, so that's a question. I need to.
All right, Mr. Mayor.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Yeah, so just on page 5 of your brief, the 489,000 is
Yes.
just pump and
Tanks.
the canopy, et cetera, and there's, sorry, just looking at your picture, there's 8 or 12
For the,
for the gas portion.
it looks like there's 3 stands, which would be 6 pumps, possibly, and then just the tanks underground.
Okay. So as pointed out by Mr. Story, there is the Safeway gas bar just north, and further north there is the massive Red River Co-op.
I would think the one on Major Thoroughfare, though, I've also lined up for gas on like Phillips many times, especially going to the lake, so if they need that amount of gas stations.
The co-op is tremendously popular. No, it really is.
I usually avoid
If
that.
people are going out to the lake.
That check.
Yeah.
Other people stay in the city and try to figure out cap rates, and they can use any gas station.
Anyway, sorry, that's all my questions, thank you.
I don't have any additional questions. Mr. Murray, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yes, I think we all know about the difficulties. There's an interesting situation. I spent some time with Senator Everett in his domo, and he talked about leases where they were actually building into his base lease the removal of the tanks at the end. Very interesting. That way the landlord was assured at the end that he had gathered the money to be able to replace the tanks. But of course, nobody anticipates what the costs will be of remediating this land and how far it'll stretch. So, that's what we're dealing with. So we've got a co-op, or pardon me, Petrocan. It's self-serve. It's on the same lot as the Domo. It's across the street, as we indicated, from Safeway, whatever they call it now, Freshie. And further down, there's a co-op down on Phillips. There's also a Shell at Lima, and some other service stations. There's a lot of service stations. This is very unique to see two on the same site. The car wash, this is a drive-through car wash, but on the same site there's also a wand car wash, which we'll be doing in a few minutes. So all I suggest is that gas stations with underground storage tanks have to have a 7.4 cap rate as a minimum, I believe. So I respectfully submit the 5.99 is not appropriate. 7.4 is more appropriate, but most developers aren't interested no matter what the cap rate is, because they don't want the risk, the inherent risk of the unknown, and the unknown is the regulations when going into a save the climate and the environment might get more stringent. Remediation may get more costly. People don't want this risk. So that's inherent risk. We're accepting the underground tanks. They're just amortized on a straight line basis. And we're accepting, we're suggesting that $1,632,554 would be appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Your question?
My only question would be, you chose to have a 6% vacancy for both, is that?
Oh, let me just check. This gets back, if you accept the fact that, that service stations are, they don't have their own category, so they've got to be treated as retail, there are some arguments that the 6% is a overall vacancy for retail citywide in 218, produced by Stevenson and Company. So we've done that for that reason.
Okay, that's my only question.
Thank you.
Mr. Barrett?
I have none, thank you.
And I have none, thank you.
And you've chosen to include the 5% management.
Yes, this has management because they will have to advertise. They'll have costs. They might even have unrecoverable if they have to pay additional remediation. Because inevitably, the tenants, when they vacate a site, will fight about, well, they weren't the first ones there. And they do an analysis of the gas they find on site to see if it's leaded or unleaded. And that'll tell them what air it was contaminated. So there's lots of inherent risk.
Okay. That's all my questions. Thank you very much. Does anyone need a break?
Okay, as well on our time as I thought.
How many numbers?
I don't think
It's
it's
11.
gonna
Okay.
take much longer.
No, that's fine.
What's the next one, Michelle?
1361.
It's the car wash.
Okay, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
We're moving to 1361 McPhillips Street, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. This is file number 19-4633, roll number 11040-765-000. Address is 1361 McPhillips Street. This is a car-related property. It would be the self-serve car wash. It was built in 1967 and has a leasable area of 3,360 square feet. So on page 2, you can see the aerial photo. So it is located in the southeast corner kind of the property, so not visible from McPhillips Street. It's just a drive-through self-serve car wash, and then just the exterior photo at the bottom to show where it's situated on the lot. And on page 3, the request for a response received for income expense, no subject sale history. And for this property, our model, we have it valued on land. So we have a net area of 21,560 square feet and a rate applied of $25.56 for a land value of $551,000. We have 7 land comparables here. I tried to find ones in the north quadrant of the city. I couldn't find any on McPhillips that weren't, most of them were farther down, larger on surface land. And this in regards to Main Street, based on size, I found those would be applicable. So these range from $20.69 to $32.61. There's also some on Regent. Comparables 2, 4, 5, and 7 are all close in size. Page 4, I don't have to go through the capitalization rates. Page 6 is the start of the income and expense questionnaire. And on page 13, I've included the rent in place for this property. So we have a rental rate of $6,250 a month. So that works out to $75,000 a year. And if this were to be, it wasn't valued on income, but it would give us a rate per square foot of make sure I get this right. Actually, divided by the land area for the pad site, which we have. If we divide it by the land area, it gives you $3.48 for land. And if we divide it by the building, we get $22.32 per square foot based on the leasable area. And I have my addenda at the back, and my recommendation today would be to maintain the 2020 assessed land value of the $551,000. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Story.
Yes, have you visited the site?
I actually have not used this car wash, but I know where it is. I've
You've
driven
seen
by
it?
it, yes.
Yeah. And you can't, it's not visible from McPhillips,
No,
behind the Moores
it's
Center?
tucked in behind, yeah.
And based on your page one, it's 53 years old,
Yes.
and it's been a one car wash, do-it-yourself car wash for 53 years?
I can't speak that far back, but I would assume that if it was built this way, that it's always been used for that.
So it's had 53 years of water, of wetness.
Yeah.
It's been damp for 53 years. Okay. And are you aware it's scheduled for demolition or no?
No, I was not.
Okay, it is. And this is on the same site as the previous Petrocan. It's on Northgate, except
Yes.
it's behind the building, not in front.
Yes.
Okay. And does it say anything in your notes? Are any or all of these bays heated?
I wouldn't think so. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't.
Okay, there's no reference.
Like, there's obviously some heat. I wouldn't think they would have it.
I believe there's an overhead heater at one end, but not.
Okay.
Okay. You know, I'm fine, those are good for questions.
Mr. Merrick?
No income approach for this property at all?
There is one in our system, but we're defending it on the land. I can tell you that if it would have been income, it was $452,000, so it was lower.
All right, I have no further questions.
Sorry, I missed a question, I missed a follow-up, I wasn't
Oh, that's
paying
okay.
attention to how you're doing it. You're doing it on land, what did you use as a land rate for this
It's
site?
been $25.56. We thought it would be more valued, this site based on the size and whatnot, it was valued on land. We do have a income stream as well. for the-
Okay, and that, on the comps you used to arrive at that figure, $25, were they behind buildings, or were they, for the most part, visible and developable?
I would say they're visible, they're,
Okay. Are you aware that there was a SUP on the property for the redevelopment, and there's an appraisal at $17 a square foot for land? No, okay. Those are all my questions, thank you.
Anything further, Mr. Merrick?
No, thank you.
Ms. No question? Can you tell me if this is the first year that this has been valued at land only? Or
no, it's commonly valued. The past 2 cycles I looked, it was valued on land.
Valued at land?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Story?
Yes, thank you. If we have a look at our brief, the front cover, you'll see it's a drive-through wand car wash. You come in one side, go out the other. That's the Cinema City, in white building right behind it. It's right at the side of Northgate. Where the photo is taken from is another retail building called Moores Center, or Moores Clothing. The property is 52 years old. It's been a wand car wash for 52 years. It's had a series of operators. Nobody is quite sure who owns the equipment, the car wash equipment in there. It's had so many different operators over the years that it's just there. So it's included in whatever rent they pay. They get the equipment. We don't know how the city arrives at 21,000 because the land isn't identified specifically, but you need probably all that to do a drive-through, so it's not unreasonable. The assessment's 551. It is scheduled for redevelopment. On the income approach, the assessor has indicated in the 4-something range. If you go to page 3 of our brief, this is what we did. We looked at 2 car washes, 700 Narren, 76 Mandalay. Mandalay's fairly close. There's 636 and 463. we took a higher figure, we took 829 as the market rent. If you do it on an income approach, it's 359. Or if you just look at it at the 551, and it's 21,000 square feet that has to be demolished, that would bring it down. If you did land only, you have to recognize demolition costs. And there's some concern about demolition on this property because they don't know for sure if, when they start getting into it, if they get into the ground and some of the ground caves in from the use it's had for so many years. So I'm going to suggest we go to the 829, the page 3, capped at 7. If there's ever been a property that is deserving of a high cap, it would be this. 7 is probably on the low side. But a fellow arrives there every morning, he takes out the coin, and he comes back at night, and takes out the coin, and so it's functioning. It's got a value. So I'm going to suggest we use 359 rounded to 360. And it's really just recognizing the cost to demolish. This is, plans are in, and development agreements are being developed as we speak to build behind the fitness club, which is a new one, further north, a small apartment not unlike the Lady Choice. If you go to page 5 of our brief, oh, we're back to 359. 359 was last year's, was 218. So we're really asking for the same value essentially as it was last year. Thank you.
Questions?
Yes. Just in regards to comparable on there,
Yeah.
is there a new owner there with the new lease? I couldn't verify it through our system.
Is your new owner?
Was there a change in, is that, from what I could look at in our system, it was previously owner occupied, and I didn't know if there was a new tenant. We just didn't get the.
Well, to be honest with you, I took these from the assessor's brief, an assessor's brief on car washes,
Oh, okay.
and these are from the assessment department.
Were they from the previous cycle maybe, because they're older?
No, they're 209 leases, but 10 years would take it to 219 would be this year. 5 year, yeah, it's a little bit older.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're higher. We went quite a bit higher.
Okay. And then you said in regards to, so I noticed there was no lease end date and what they submitted, so.
He's actually, the
They
tenant is really month to month.
Okay.
And they won't enter into a lease because they want to redevelop the property.
And did you say they were redeveloping this exact parcel as, did you say multi?
No, they'll need it, no, multifamily will be behind and further north.
Okay.
You know the shopping center? If there's a new fitness club at the back,
Mm-hmm.
right beside there's some surplus land. But you'll need this for access and egress. To be honest, Northgate, the way people fall, Northgate is overbuilt. There's too many things there now. So they're looking forward to taking this down. It'll help the flow of traffic.
Okay, so they're not planning on building another building, it's just gonna
No,
be?
if there's another building, it'll be quite far removed on
Oh,
the other
okay.
end of the, this is on the south end of the property.
Mm-hmm.
The building, if they build an apartment, it'll be a small one, and
Mm-hmm.
it'll be on the north end, the
Okay.
northeast end, because it backs onto residential, and it's gonna be limitations on development if allowed at all.
Okay,
But it should, this is earmarked for redevelopment.
okay. Then for this one, you used the 2% vacancy?
Yes.
Okay. That's all my questions, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
I have none. Thank you.
I have no questions.
no question? You mentioned something about an appraisal.
Yes. The appraisal was done, I have the, let me show you this, this is a copy of it. This is the decision, but no, I don't have the appraisal with me, but I've got the decision for, it was a sup on 13 on Northgate, the overall Northgate, which included this property, that's $17 a square foot. That's the decision. But we're going on the income approach anyway. So.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's everything.
Yes.
Summary?
Thank you.
All right, and we're moving along to our final property, which is 1412 McPhillips, and we're looking at the assessed value. Whenever you're ready.
This is file number 19-4155. roll number 05004-200-100, 1412 Phillip Street. Actually, your build was 1988, and we have a leasable area of 17,919 square feet. If you turn to page 2, just an aerial shot of the building. Sorry, it's quite blurry. I don't know if yours is as blurry as mine is, but it's located at the corner of McPhillips and Maple Glen Drive. And it is a Walker building, so they have the retail portion at the front and the car related towards the back. I don't have any interior photos, and I have not been in this building. On page 3 is the request for income and expense questionnaire received. No subject sale history, and I'll get into the subject property when we get to the income and expense questionnaire. So on page 4, I have a leasable area for the retail portion, which is the optical, at 2,475 square feet leasable and $15.93 rent per square foot. I have 8 comparables. I looked along McPhillips to try to find other retail portions. Similar age, similar size for the most part. These range from $15.50 up to $17.52, so I get an average of $16.44 and $16.50 for the median. On page 5, I have the vehicle service garage income workup, so we've applied the $12.86 rent per square foot. And, I didn't even go through the other capitalization stuff, sorry. If we turn back to page 4, for the retail portion, we've applied a 6.9% cap, and the vacancy loss would be 6%, and the shortfall would be $6.50. I think that would be different from if we go back to page 5, where I have a 4% vacancy, a shortfall of $4.50, and an overall capitalization rate of 6.55%. So we've already gone through my comparables on page 6, and then on page 7, we have the combined income streams. So we have the combined net operating income of $219,428 with a capitalization rate of 6.6% to come up with an estimated market value of $3,322,000. So page 8, we have the capitalization rates, model drive. If we turn to page 10, so start of the 2017 income and expense questionnaire. So it does state it's fully owner-occupied, gross rent. I was a little unsure of turning to page 12. So I thought for sure that the Jim Gauthier portion was owner-occupied. I was unsure about the Team Optical. It doesn't give too many details on that property, so maybe the applicant has a bit more information. And my recommendation today is to maintain the 2020 assessed value of the $3,322,000. Thank you, that's my presentation.
It's too slow.
Thank you. This is a combination of retail and auto-related, correct?
Yes.
And the cap rate, when the city just handed out some information not long ago that showed some cap rate stuff for neighborhood shopping centers. Most notably, right in the middle of the Maples, it's on page 17 of your brief. Right in the heart of the Maples on Jefferson and Shepherd.
Yes.
IGA Market, it's got an IGA store, it's got a bank, it's got a nice pizza store. It's, and the cap rate on that's sold. And on page 17, the cap rate is 7.44%.
Yes, but we also have one located right on McPhillips at 4.6%, so it just depends which one you think it's most similar to.
Well, let's look at 4.6%. Which one are you speaking of? On
Just the top of the retail, we have one for 2140 McPhillips Street, so, and I'm not super familiar with retail cap rates just because I'm not in that section, but just to point out, we do have one on McPhillips.
Okay. But the Maple Center is just behind this, not across Railroad on the street. Okay, and Hakeem Optical is a tenant. You're aware they're a tenant.
Yes, but I just couldn't determine any rental rates or from the mailer.
And you take into consideration the challenges that retail is having worldwide or North American wide right now with Amazon and These people will give you 5 pairs of glasses free if you're Hakeem Optical with bricks and mortar. They'll give you five pairs to try out. And do you take that into consideration when you look at cap rate?
I'm not sure, based on the retail cap rates, the 6.9% seems fair. I guess in regards to retail, in
Retail.
glasses stores,
They
I'm
find-
one of the people that just would never buy anything online because I don't know how it'll look on my face, so. I
Well,
wouldn't risk it.
interestingly enough, there are some people, because we just did a study last night, actually. In 2012, Amazon did 60 billion. This year, they're gonna do 358 billion. So somebody's using retail. Retail's very, very risky right now. There were last year major, announced in 2017, there were over 5,000 major chains closed in the United States. They are projecting to be over 5,000 again for 18, when we get the final number, or probably for 19, for 18, and for 19. For 20, they're projecting 9,300. So there's huge risk associated with retail. And I think the assessment department has to think about that. Thank you, that's all. I'll speak to the matter when we get to it. No other questions?
Sorry, no, I've lost my place. You did your presentation?
Yes,
Not with questions?
yes.
Yeah,
I have none.
Okay. You confused me all.
I know, because I take the opportunity to speak and just say whatever I know.
You do.
Sorry. Questions?
Said with respect, Mr. Story.
Yeah, no, accepted. Well deserved.
Questions, thank you.
And I have no questions. Now, your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. This, what happened is a few years ago, I think it was the late 80s, GMAC told Mr. Gauthier that the new fancy dealership he built on the corner, which looked like something from the Jetsons when it was first built, I believe it was 89, didn't meet their Image 2000. That's not what they wanted. They wanted the collision center in close proximity or on site, and they wanted a whole different look. So he went and bought the building across the street, which was a failed strip mall. And that building across the street, the failed strip mall, is what we're now dealing with today. And it was a strip mall. He bought it, and he put in a car wash. And it was like a drive-through car wash, like the old days, where you sit and go through it. And that didn't work, so he closed that, and he made it an auto body, a collision center. But you could still see the collision center when you came out of the main dealership, which is right on the front page of where it says prepared by. That's where the main dealership is, the big one, 1400 McPhillips. You could still see the beat up cars. Said this isn't acceptable. So about 5 years ago they changed it. It's now called a detailing shop. And a detailing is when you get a used car in, they take it in and they really clean it. So that's what it's used for now. So it is auto related, but it was a shopping center. It was a neighborhood strip mall. He had no use for the front portion of it, and Hakeem came and said, if you can make it look like a storefront on McPhillips, we'll rent it, and they're renting it. So it's a rental property, but this is a neighborhood shopping center that started out to be a car wash, that ended up being a detailing shop. It's across the street from Gauthier. In a perfect world, they wouldn't want it to be across the street. They'd want it to be in their new collision center where they can consolidate. So that's that quick story. But let's go to where we are. Go to page 3 of our brief. And we're suggesting that the city should be using the $11.50 that we've talked about for auto body. For retail, we're suggesting $12.50. We have some comps coming up in a minute. 6% retail vacancy based on citywide. That's similar to the cities. We're asking for the 5% to be reinstated. And then the big thing is, with respect to cap rate, there are two schools of thought. One is that you can't have two different income streams in one building, because you can't break out. You can't say yes, I like, or with different degree of risk. Because you can't break it out and say, well, I definitely want Hakeem Optical, but I don't want the rest of it. You still have to buy the building, it's one building. So most appraisers will suggest to use a higher of the two cap rates if there's multiple income streams. So we've used 7.75. It's certainly appropriate for the detailing auto body shop. And based on current times and the retail, I think it's appropriate for the retail. So we're suggesting using 7.75, a market value of $2,428,563. That's my presentation. Oh, I'm not. Let me finish. Just flip the next page. The next page, 2 pages are just a city worker. Here you can see a little bit of the building from the side. This is looking from the cart dealership. And you can see Jim Roche and can't read. Does that say collision center? What does it say in front of that white, behind the white truck? Anybody read it? I don't know what it says. Anyway, that's it. Again, we use the vehicle comps, 1150. That's probably on the high side. As a matter of fact, we just did one on St. James Street where the market rent was 1058, if you recall. So we're probably high at 1150, but we're using it. And last year, the decision was made using an operating income, adjusted operating income, and a capitalization at 7.75. That was used last year. There hasn't been, I can guarantee there has not been any compression in retail cap rates in anywhere in North America. So the 7.75 is sustainable. I'm going to ask for the 5% again, and that's my presentation. Thank you.
All right. Any questions? Thank you, Jay.
For your retail space, do you have comps to support that number?
No, we didn't. I didn't provide any at this time. I thought we had, but we didn't.
And then, in regards to the lease in place, is the Hakeem owner occupied? Like,
No, Hakeem is a lease, a tenant.
So-
The reason it's owner occupied is the collision center is owned by
Yeah.
the Gauthier group of companies. And they're a tenant, but they're also a landlord.
Okay, so I was just curious, because they don't give us the lease for Hakeem. Do you know the lease for Hakeem?
I did it years ago, I can't remember. I'm not sure. I know that in the past we've had, we've done most of it by cap rate, so we've generally accepted whatever the city's using. We probably accepted the model. But if it's retail, the opening premise today was it's a category of retail.
Okay.
So I would use a retail rate at 11.5. I bumped it up because at the front it's got visibility. The back end you can't see as you go down McPhillips. So we bumped it to 12.50 or whatever it did. So it's a little bit higher than the retail rate.
That's my question.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Merritt.
Yes, I have just, some of your figures are wrong, Sid.
Okay.
Okay. So on your, if you look at your, I guess, it's your NOI.
Yeah, on page 3.
Okay, on page 3, yeah.
Yeah.
You have 219,427.
Correct.
It should be 179,778. There's,
Right.
Okay.
Again, yes, that's clear.
The
Where's the
Auto-
difference, Mr. Mayor?
okay,
Oh, I see.
yeah,
247,
it's out, the second column under auto body
Body,
is
yeah.
incorrect. It's, instead of 6593, it should be 15,029. Okay.
15, not 65.93?
I think what you did is you looked at the assessor's figures and did some of the figures over there. Okay, so if you look at,
Oh, I see what you're
Okay.
saying, yeah.
Okay.
Our number, our
So-
position is, yes.
yeah.
That's correct.
so I get a figure of,
Sorry about that.
I get a figure of 2,320,000.
I I'm fine with either 2.4 or 2.3. Thank you very much.
If you look, the assessor's 8,300, is it into your figure there?
Yes, correct, yeah.
Okay. So,
Somebody's flipped it around.
yeah.
Too many briefs.
Yes, you're right, you're right.
There's
Took
way
me a
too
while
much
to
work
figure
for
out.
everybody. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So are you, so your figure should be, your NOI, 179,778,
Yeah.
okay? And at 7.75
Yes.
gives you 2,320,000.
Perfect, thank you ever so
Okay.
much for calculating that.
I'll
I
bill you.
apologize. Is that them
Any
all?
further questions?
That's all?
I think that's it, yes.
Anything further?
Two quick questions. Mr. Story, did you have a chance to inspect this?
Many, many times. I used to live out there and I used to wash my car there and I'd go visit them every year.
Page 9 of your brief, last year, this was decreased by the board to 2,569,000, and you're asking now over 200,000 less from the previous year?
Yes, yes, and the, as I indicated before, 60 billion in 212 and 358 billion, you don't want to be a retailer.
All right, thank you, that's my question.
A couple of properties back, we
Yeah.
talked about owner occupied, and we did not request a 5%.
Yes, sir, they own Hakeem, it's a tenant.
But that's a smaller, quite a small portion, right? As
Yes, but
opposed
it's
to-
still a tenant, it's not a, they don't own it.
But you're applying the 5% across the whole building.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there any need for summary?
Thank you.
And I
No,
think
we're fine.
we'll call this hearing to a
We were
close.
trying to
You did
do it
very
at
well.
11 and we went too long and I apologize.
That's fine.
I'll take responsibility. Just I'm afraid to leave because Michelle's going to get me in the hallway. Marking out for coffee. Did I give it back?
You gave